Now, levelling up, we've talked about it before. Yes, I've done my very best to try and explain and understand what it really is. Well, today there was a convention of the North with, of course, the great Michael Gove taking the chair. And he seems frightfully pleased with levelling up and what it's going to deliver for people. He also adds to that he wants a lot more devolution, a lot more local mayors, a lot more local powers. My view on it has always been that, well, it can be useful. You know, you can build some roads and bypasses and some infrastructure, but generally, government spraying money around in regions, I don't think is the way to create wealth. I think you've got to do what, for example, the state of Georgia did in America. Over the last 10 years, they became ultra competitive. They finished up with growth rates of 4% year after year after year by good government, by allowing businesses to thrive. That, to me, is what levelling up would really be. But, nonetheless, as there is a cake to be delivered out under the government's levelling up plans, it's led to one heck of a row. And one of the places, one of the epicentres of this disagreement is the West Midlands. And Marco Longhi, the Member of Parliament for Dudley North, he put this point to the Prime Minister at PMQs today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While I was disappointed that Dudley did not make the final cut in the latest levelling up funding round, I am, of course, pleased that we received the £25 million Towns deal, the brand new Duncan Edwards leisure facility, and a transport interchange project secured since my election in 2019. But our high street, Mr. Speaker, is on its knees. So will the Prime Minister meet with me and Dudley Council to discuss our levelling up bid and how we can ensure success in the next round?
Well, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is a great advocate for his constituents. And I'm delighted that, thanks to his efforts, Dudley has received £25 million from the Towns Fund. I know there will be disappointment about the Levelling Up Fund, but all bids, including that made by Dudley Council, can receive feedback to strengthen their bid for future rounds of funding, and I would be very happy to meet him further to discuss.
Marco Longhi joins me, Conservative Member of Parliament for Dudley North. So, is it all about just governments, just spraying money around the place and all will be well?
Well, of course it's not, Nigel. It's nice to see you again, by the way. I am the ultra-local campaigner, as you might say. I will do my best for Dudley people, and what I want to do is make sure that I get every possible pound, shilling and pence spent, as any MP, you might argue, might want to do. I would always argue as a Conservative we want smaller government, not bigger government. Larger government usually means more taxes for people, so I would be very much against that, and more taxes means usually lower growth. Lower growth means recessions are more likely. So I'm very much for growth, low taxation, and I absolutely want to make sure that those infrastructure projects that are about levelling up actually take place in Dudley. And I was, of course, quite put out that Dudley was not considered accepted.
Now, I mean, I've been to Dudley many, many times, and, you know, it's sort of post-industrial in many ways. It's really got its economic problems. Why was it left out?
Well, there are different narratives on this, obviously. We are being told that there are many competing bids in there, and if you listen to the government's narrative of, say, a week or two ago, it was all about making sure that it was money was being dished out on a per capita basis. While I can appreciate there is an argument for that, I would argue that particularly in areas like Dudley, where you have a post-industrial legacy, a lot of offshoring overseas of business, what happens then, of course, is that you have bigger problems in certain areas that need addressing than others. And, of course, different areas did receive larger sums of money than others.
I mean, one of the big criticisms, of course, is that levelling up, as it was sold at the last election, was all about the Midlands and the North, and actually the South is receiving quite a lot of money. Now, to be fair, the South has great wealth, but also pockets of great deprivation as well. Is this pork barrel politics? I mean, basically what they're doing. Let's be honest. What Rishi Sunak, and you got left out, but what Rishi Sunak is basically doing in the North is making sure the red wall areas get loads of money.
Well, obviously, there are other areas, red wall constituencies, who would argue that they haven't received the money that they were supposed to be receiving. So you will have heard also from Andy Street, who was also quite upset at the funding that the Midlands received.
Andy Street, the Mayor of the West Midlands, for those that don't know. Now, what he said was really interesting, because he's calling for even more devolution.
Yes.
He's calling for a level of fiscal autonomy for the West Midlands, which means just one thing to me: more tax.
There are, of course, different schools of thought on this. And what I would like to have seen in the bid considered more is the level of need that Dudley, for example, presents compared to others. And for me, if that local content had been there, I'd like to think that the government would have looked on Dudley more favourably. So that part of the question I understand. More devolution is something I need to be, let's say, more persuaded on.
Well,
because I remember the experiment with county councils, and that didn't work, did it? Andy has been an excellent mayor. We have a very good mayor in Ben Houchin, but I'm not sure you can cast your eye on the rest of the country and see that you have the same level of success.
Well, Michael Gove at the Convention of the North today was talking about these mayors being set up basically right across the country. I wonder, this was supposed to be one of the flagship policies of the 2019 election, although I'm not sure it actually was, because I don't think anyone really understood what it meant, rather like the term Northern Powerhouse that went before it. But isn't the truth of it that in fact what the Conservative Party is in danger of doing with this is upsetting more people than it pleases?
We have had some bad luck, haven't we, as well? Levelling up largely means, in my opinion, when Boris explained, it was about creating those opportunities in areas that historically didn't have them. So he used to say, if you remember, talent is everywhere, but you're not able to actually deploy that talent.
And he talked about free ports, and I think these were very good ideas.
Very good ideas. But a lot of it was centred around infrastructure projects. Now, of course, everything stopped for 2 years under COVID, and infrastructure projects take a long time to put in place. So even if we started today building on some of the things I want to get built in Dudley, it won't be for the next 2 or 3 years' time before we see results. Then you have planning permissions and all the other sorts of things that take time to sort out. So, to be fair, there is an element of the levelling up equation that you can't just at the snap of a finger make happen, can you?
Final thought. Rishi Sunak, your unelected leader, not even elected by Conservative Party members, but hey, there we are. It's 2023. We're all hoping for a fresh start and stability for the sake of the country, if nothing else. Pretty clear today at PMQs that Starmer was being the lawyer. Starmer was doing what he's good at. Asking a question to which he knew the answer already, and that's what he does. And
sticking to his script.
Well, yes, and the Prime Minister did actually point that out.
Yes.
But it's pretty clear. One thing that comes through is that when the Prime Minister said he was confident about the tax affairs of Nadeem Sahawi last week, he then says new evidence has come to light. He said it twice today in the chamber, which says to me that Zahawi has been less than forthcoming with information to his own party. I mean, this has been kicked into the long grass. The new ethics advisor will look at this. It'll drag on for weeks. Do you think Zahawi can survive?
It's been a difficult issue for members of Parliament who like to show their loyalty, such as myself, to deal with. I'm not going to deny that. But the Labour Party, above all, were absolutely hounding the government when we didn't have an ethics advisor and saying, you must have one and appoint one immediately. And now it seems a little bit odd that they are saying that Zahawi should be sacked immediately, even before the ethics advisors even had a chance to look at the information. And so I don't want to jump to conclusions like the Labour Party has. It does seem to be a difficult situation, but hey, I've been surprised an awful lot in the last few years. Let's see what happens.
Marco Longhi, thank you for joining me. Keep fighting for your constituents. That, after all, is what MPs are supposed to do.
Thank you.